Welcome back to Crowned Black Heroes, where we uncover the stories of courage so extraordinary they seem impossible. Today, I'm going to tell you about a man who did something so desperate, so claustrophobic, so terrifying that most people couldn't imagine surviving it. This man was enslaved in Virginia. His wife and 3 children had just been sold away from him, torn from his life forever. He was devastated, broken, but also determined. He was going to escape slavery no matter what it took. And what it took was putting himself inside a wooden box, measuring 3 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, and 2 feet deep. That's barely bigger than a coffin. He would be nailed inside this box with just 3 small air holes. He would have 1 container of water and a few biscuits. And then this box, with him inside, would be shipped by freight wagon, railroad, steamboat, and mail wagon from Richmond, Virginia to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 350 miles, 27 hours, locked in a box, unable to move, unable to stretch, barely able to breathe. For much of the journey, the box would be turned upside down despite the words, "This side up," painted on it, meaning he would be standing on his head for hours, the blood rushing to his brain, convinced he was going to die. This is not fiction. This happened, and the man survived. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we bring you these incredible true stories every single week. And if this story makes your heart race just thinking about it, smash that like button and drop a comment. Now let me tell you about Henry Brown, the man who literally mailed himself to freedom in a box, and why they started calling him Henry Box Brown. We begin around 1815 in Louisa County, Virginia. A boy is born into slavery. His name is Henry Brown. We don't know his exact birth date because enslaved people's births are not considered worth recording. Henry grows up on a plantation, experiencing all the horrors of slavery. He watches family members sold away. He experiences beatings and brutality. He works from childhood, his labor stolen, his life controlled completely by the white family that claims to own him. But when Henry is in his teens, something happens that changes his situation slightly. His enslaver dies, and Henry is inherited by the man's son who moves to Richmond, the capital of Virginia. Henry is sent to work in a tobacco factory in Richmond. This is still slavery, still brutal exploitation, but city slavery is sometimes marginally less horrific than plantation slavery. In the city, Henry has slightly more freedom of movement, more opportunities to interact with other enslaved and free black people, more exposure to information about the world beyond the plantation. Henry meets a young enslaved woman named Nancy. They fall in love. In the eyes of the law, enslaved people cannot marry. Their relationships have no legal standing. But in their own eyes, and in the eyes of their community, Henry and Nancy are husband and wife. They build a life together within the narrow constraints slavery allows. They have children, 3 beautiful children who become the center of Henry's world. Henry works in the tobacco factory, and whatever small wages he's allowed to keep, he uses to support his family. For a brief time, Henry has something that approaches happiness, or at least contentment within the horror of slavery. But in August 1848, Henry's world collapses. Nancy's enslaver decides to sell her. This is the constant terror that enslaved families live with. At any moment, for any reason or no reason at all, family members can be sold away, relationships destroyed, children torn from parents. Nancy's enslaver doesn't care that she has a husband and children. He needs money or simply decides to sell her, and that's all that matters. Henry begs Nancy's enslaver not to sell her. He offers to buy her freedom, though he has almost no money. He pleads for mercy, for consideration of their family. The enslaver refuses. On the day Nancy is to be sold, Henry rushes to where the sale is happening. He finds Nancy in chains along with their 3 children. The enslaver has decided to sell all of them together. Henry watches in absolute horror as his wife and children are sold to a slave trader from North Carolina. They're being taken away, and he will never see them again. Henry tries to say goodbye. He tries to hold them one last time. But he's pushed away. Nancy and the children are loaded onto a wagon. The last thing Henry sees is his wife looking back at him with tears streaming down her face as the wagon carries his family away forever. Henry Brown is destroyed. The pain is so intense that he can barely function. He goes back to the tobacco factory, but he's not really there. He's broken, traumatized, consumed by grief and rage. Many enslaved people who experience this kind of loss simply gave up. The psychological damage was too severe. Some committed suicide. Others were never the same, living the rest of their lives as hollow shells. But Henry's grief transforms into something else: determination. He is going to escape. He is going to be free. He can't save his wife and children, they're already gone. But he can refuse to remain enslaved. He can deny his enslaver the satisfaction of continuing to profit from his labor. He can claim his own freedom no matter how dangerous or difficult. Henry begins planning his escape. Running away is incredibly dangerous. Virginia has slave patrols constantly searching for runaways. Enslaved people need passes to travel. A black person on the road without papers will be stopped, questioned, probably beaten, and returned to their enslaver or sold. The penalties for attempted escape are severe: whipping, branding, sometimes death as an example to others. Henry knows all this, but he doesn't care. He's willing to risk everything. Henry meets a free black man named James Smith who is sympathetic to his situation. James is a shopkeeper and has some resources. Henry also contacts a white shoemaker named Samuel Smith, no relation to James, who is secretly an abolitionist opposed to slavery. Together, these three men begin to plan something that has never been done before. They're going to ship Henry to freedom in a box. The idea is insane. The risks are enormous. But it might just work because it's so unexpected that no one would think to look for a runaway slave inside a freight box. Samuel Smith contacts the Philadelphia Anti-Slavery Society, an organization of abolitionists in Pennsylvania who help escaped slaves. He arranges for the box to be shipped to their office in Philadelphia, where members will receive it and free Henry. Now they need to prepare. First, they need a box. The box is built specifically for this purpose. It measures 3 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, and 2 feet deep. Think about those dimensions for a moment. 3 feet is shorter than most people's height. Henry will have to crouch or contort his body to fit. He won't be able to stand up or stretch out fully. He'll be locked in this position for the entire journey. 3 small holes are drilled in the box for air. These holes are tiny, barely enough to provide adequate ventilation. If the box is covered or stacked with other freight, Henry could suffocate. A container of water and a few biscuits are placed in the box. This is all the food and water Henry will have for a journey that could take anywhere from 24 to 30 hours depending on connections and delays. On the box, Samuel Smith paints the words, "This side up and with care," in large letters. The hope is that freight handlers will see these instructions and keep the box upright. But this is 1849. Freight handlers don't care about packages marked fragile or this side up. They throw boxes, stack them however they fit, treat cargo roughly. Samuel knows this. Henry knows this. But they have no other option. On March 23, 1849, Henry prepares for his escape. He's terrified but determined. He knows he might die in this box. He might suffocate, might be discovered and killed, might be crushed if heavy cargo is stacked on top of him. But staying in Richmond after losing his family, continuing to be enslaved, is a living death. He'd rather die trying to be free than live as a slave. Henry does something. That shows his desperation and his strategic thinking. He burns his hand with sulfuric acid. The injury is severe enough that he has an excuse to miss work at the tobacco factory. This gives him time to attempt the escape without immediate alarm being raised when he doesn't show up. Early in the morning on March 23rd, Henry climbs into the box. Samuel Smith nails the lid shut. Henry Brown is now sealed inside a wooden box 3 feet by 2.5 feet by 2 feet. He cannot stand. He cannot stretch. He can barely move. The air is immediately close and difficult to breathe. The 3 small holes provide some ventilation, but not much. Henry has to consciously control his breathing, trying not to panic, trying not to use up oxygen too quickly. The box is loaded onto a wagon and taken to the freight depot. Henry feels every bump in the road. He hears muffled voices of workers handling the box. And then he feels the box being lifted and thrown, and suddenly he realizes with horror that the box has been turned upside down. Despite the clear markings this side up, the freight handlers have inverted the box. Henry is now standing on his head inside the box. The pain is immediate and intense. All of his weight is on his head and shoulders. The blood rushes to his head, creating enormous pressure. His neck is twisted at an agonizing angle. He tries to shift position, but there's no room to move. He's trapped upside down, and every minute the pain intensifies. Henry is convinced he's going to die. The pressure in his head is unbearable. He can't think clearly. He's dizzy, nauseous, in agony. He wants to scream, but he can't make noise or he'll be discovered. He wants to pound on the box to make them turn it over, but that would alert everyone that there's a person inside. So Henry suffers in silence, upside down, barely conscious, praying for the torture to end. Hours pass. Henry has no sense of time inside the box. It could be 2 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours. Every minute feels like an eternity. Finally, he feels the box being moved again. It's being loaded onto a new conveyance, maybe a train, and as workers lift and reposition it, the box is turned right side up. The relief is indescribable. Henry can breathe more easily. The pressure in his head begins to decrease. His neck and shoulders are screaming with pain, but at least he's not upside down anymore. But Henry's ordeal is far from over. The journey from Richmond to Philadelphia involves multiple transfers. The box is moved from wagon to railroad car, from railroad car to steamboat, from steamboat to another wagon, from wagon to delivery cart. Each time the box is moved, there's a risk it will be dropped, crushed, or turned upside down again. Henry experiences all of these things during the 27-hour journey. Multiple times, the box is inverted despite the markings. Multiple times, Henry is jammed against the sides of the box as it's thrown or dropped. At one point, workers sit on the box, crushing down on Henry, who is inside, unable to cry out, barely able to breathe under the weight. The temperature inside the box varies wildly. Sometimes it's freezing cold. Other times, packed in with other freight, the box becomes stifling hot. Henry sweats through his clothes, uses his precious water sparingly, tries to eat a few bites of biscuit, though his mouth is so dry he can barely swallow. The psychological torture is as bad as the physical. Henry is trapped in complete darkness. He has no idea where he is or how much longer the journey will take. He doesn't know if the plan is working or if he's being shipped to the wrong destination. He has moments of panic where he's certain he's going to suffocate, where he struggles against the box in claustrophobic terror. But he forces himself to stay calm, to control his breathing, to survive. At several points during the journey, Henry hears voices close by, freight workers or passengers talking. He has to remain absolutely silent, absolutely still, even as his body screams for movement, for relief from the cramped position. One sound, one movement that seems unusual, and someone might investigate the box. Discovery means death or worse, being returned to slavery and punished savagely as an example to other enslaved people thinking about escape. 27 hours after being nailed into the box, after an ordeal that would have killed most people, the box arrives at the office of the Philadelphia Anti-Slavery Society. Members of the society have been expecting the delivery. They know that somewhere in today's freight deliveries, there should be a box containing a man trying to escape slavery. When the box arrives, They're nervous. Has he survived? They've heard stories of attempted escapes like this where the person was found dead in the box, suffocated or crushed. They approach the box carefully. They tap on it gently. Is anybody alive in there? From inside the box, they hear a faint voice. All right, Henry Brown is alive. The abolitionists quickly remove the nails and open the box. Henry emerges, cramped, dehydrated, in severe pain, barely able to stand. His joints have been locked in one position for so long that straightening out is agony. But he's alive. He's in Philadelphia, a free state. He's no longer legally enslaved. He's free. The first thing Henry does, according to the accounts of the abolitionists who were there, is sing a hymn. Despite everything, he's just endured. Despite the pain and exhaustion, Henry stands there and sings a psalm of thanksgiving. The abolitionists are amazed, moved to tears by this man's courage and faith. Henry's story spreads quickly through abolitionist networks. A man escaped slavery by mailing himself in a box. It's so dramatic, so audacious, that everyone wants to hear about it. Henry begins speaking at abolitionist meetings, telling his story, showing audiences the box that held him, describing the 27 hours of hell he endured to be free. People are horrified and inspired. Henry becomes famous in abolitionist circles. He's given the name Henry Box Brown, a nickname that honors his extraordinary method of escape. He becomes one of the most prominent formerly enslaved people on the abolitionist lecture circuit, alongside figures like Frederick Douglass. Henry's speeches are powerful. He doesn't just talk about his escape. He talks about slavery's brutality, about watching his wife and children sold away, about the everyday violence and dehumanization of slavery. He makes Northern audiences understand the reality of slavery in visceral, personal terms. But Henry's freedom in America is precarious. In 1850, Congress passes the Fugitive Slave Act, which requires that escaped slaves be returned to their enslavers even if they're found in free states. The law also makes it a crime to help escaped slaves. Under this law, Henry could be captured in Philadelphia and sent back to Virginia. The risk is too great. In 1850, Henry makes the difficult decision to leave America. He sails to England, where slavery is illegal and where he'll be safe from slave catchers. In England, Henry continues his abolitionist work. He performs dramatic readings and shows, including a panorama, a kind of moving picture show that depicts scenes from slavery and his escape. He becomes quite popular in England, performing for large audiences and spreading awareness about American slavery. Henry also remarries in England. He had lost his first wife and children when they were sold. In England, he builds a new life, a new family. He lives in England for many years, becoming a British citizen. After the American Civil War ends and slavery is abolished, Henry could return to America, but he chooses to remain in England, where he's built a life and where he's respected as a speaker and performer. In 1875, Henry moves to Toronto, Canada. He lives there for the rest of his life, continuing to speak about his experiences occasionally, but mostly living quietly. Henry Box Brown dies in Toronto in 1897 at approximately 82 years old. He's buried in Toronto. His grave is marked, and he's remembered as one of the most remarkable figures in the history of resistance to slavery. Henry's story raises important questions about the nature of freedom and what people will risk to achieve it. Most of us cannot imagine being sealed in a box for 27 hours. The claustrophobia, the pain, the terror would be overwhelming. Yet Henry chose that rather than remain enslaved. That tells us something profound about how terrible slavery was. People often talk about slavery in abstract terms as a historical institution, as a system of labor. But slavery was torture. It was the destruction of families, the theft of lives, the brutal dehumanization of human beings. Henry was willing to risk death in the most horrifying way imaginable rather than continue living under slavery. That's how bad it was. Henry's escape method was unique, but his desperation was not. Enslaved people attempted escape constantly despite the enormous risks. They ran through swamps pursued by dogs. They hid in ships and trains. They walked hundreds of miles at night. Some succeeded, many were caught and punished savagely, some died trying. But they kept trying because slavery was unendurable and freedom was worth any risk. Henry's story also highlights the network of people, black and white, who risked their own safety to help enslaved people escape. Samuel Smith, the white shoemaker who built the box and shipped Henry, was breaking the law. If caught, he could have been imprisoned, fined, or worse. James Smith, the free black shopkeeper who helped plan the escape, was risking his own freedom. Free black people who helped enslaved people escape could be enslaved themselves under Southern laws. The members of the Philadelphia Anti-Slavery Society who received Henry were violating the Fugitive Slave Act. All of these people put themselves at risk to help Henry be free. This is the Underground Railroad. Not literally a railroad, but a network of safe houses, secret routes, and brave people who helped enslaved people reach freedom. Henry's escape was part of this broader movement of resistance and solidarity. After the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, Henry's story became less well known. During the Jim Crow era, stories of black resistance and black courage were not celebrated in mainstream American culture. Henry Box Brown's name faded from public memory, except among historians who specialized in slavery and abolition. But in recent decades, there's been renewed interest in Henry's story. Children's books have been written about him. Historians have researched his life more thoroughly. There are plans for monuments and memorials. Henry's story is being recovered and told to new generations as an example of extraordinary courage and the human drive for freedom. Looking at Henry's story from our modern perspective, it's tempting to focus on the escape itself, on the dramatic 27 hours in the box. That's certainly the most cinematic part of the story. But we shouldn't forget the context. Henry was forced into this desperate act because his family was stolen from him, sold away like objects. He survived 27 hours of torture in a box because the alternative, remaining enslaved, was worse. That's the real horror at the heart of this story. We also shouldn't romanticize Henry's escape as an adventure or a triumph without acknowledging the costs. Henry lost his wife and 3 children forever. He never saw them again. He had to leave America, the country of his birth, and live in exile for most of his remaining life. He survived the box, but he carried the physical and psychological scars of that experience for the rest of his life. Yes, he gained his freedom, and that's precious and important. But he shouldn't have had to nearly kill himself to get something that should have been his birthright. Before I close, I want you to think about something practical. Find a box or a closet in your house that's about 3 feet by 2.5 feet by 2 feet. Actually, go find one or measure out those dimensions. Now imagine being locked inside it, unable to move, barely able to breathe for 27 hours. Imagine being turned upside down for hours at a time while you're in there. Imagine not knowing if you'll survive. Imagine doing this not for a YouTube challenge or a stunt, but because it's your only chance at freedom from a system that treats you as property. That's what Henry Box Brown did. That's the level of desperation and courage we're talking about. His story is not just history. It's a testament to the unbreakable human spirit, to the drive for freedom that cannot be suppressed, no matter how brutal the system of oppression. Henry Box Brown mailed himself to freedom, and in doing so, he made a statement that echoes through history, that enslaved people would go to any lengths, would risk anything, would endure any suffering to be free. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the reality of slavery and the courage of those who resisted it, then I need you to act right now. Hit that like button to help this story reach more people. Subscribe to Crowned Black Heroes and turn on notifications because every week we bring you these powerful true stories. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. Could you survive 27 hours in a box? What does Henry's story teach us about freedom and what people will sacrifice to achieve it? Share this video everywhere. Make sure Henry Box Brown's story is known and remembered. Make sure people understand what slavery really meant and what people did to escape it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about these stories. Thank you for helping us honor the memory of people like Henry Box Brown, who risked everything for freedom. His story is not just about the past. It's about the fundamental human drive for dignity and liberty that exists in all of us. Share his story, honor his courage, and join me next time for another incredible true story. Until then, stay inspired, stay committed to justice, and never forget the price that people paid for the freedom we sometimes take for granted. Peace.